Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
The only true cooperative that was started in India was Amul, and you can see what it has done. And all that we did in Anand was let the people's power express itself. And in order that it may be effective, we combined their power, which is the biggest asset of India, the power of our people, with professional management. Now, therefore, our attempt must be to create a plurality of democratic structures, which the people manage, giving meaning to democracy and underpinning the government in Delhi.
We want agriculture is the largest private sector enterprise in our country. Over 600 million people are in agriculture. People don't realize when you talk about private sector enterprise, we talked over some big companies and so on. But the largest single private sector enterprise is agriculture. Industry is now really leading to jobless growth. The job-led growth only can come from agriculture.
Immense concentration of atomic energy has made possible other developments whose immediate results have been less happy and which have placed a pall of fear over the peoples of the world. I refer, of course, to the development of atomic and hydrogen bombs. A widespread atomic power industry in the world will necessitate an international society in which the major states have agreed to maintain peace.
Research and inquiry has to be one of the component of the teaching and research. Second one is creativity and innovation. Third one, use of high technology. Fourth one, entrepreneurial leadership. Fifth one, moral leadership. And all the five components make the creative education.
Hello, everyone. As an ethnographer of imagination, designer, catalyst of co-creation, poet and author, my curiosity and my mission is to cultivate curiosity, compassion, and creativity in people. Today, I bring to you a series of videos where I will have a dialogue with people who have contributed to the history of imagination of India. So in this series, I bring to you Sam Pitroda, who has contributed to the telecom revolution of India as an advisor to the Prime Minister of India, Rajiv Gandhi. We have collaborated during his advisorship of the Prime Minister to expand the design education network in India. So over to Sam. I'll start my dialogue. Hi, Sam. I want to give you a background of like why I'm doing this, my motivation for it, and why you are the first one I'm doing this with. As you know my family background, and this year is my father's birth centenary year.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
And in that context, I am trying to generate a dialogue within the country, within India, because I kind of feel that the narrative that inspires progress has been hijacked. And I really believe that we need to talk about the history of imagination of India. And that is continuous from the past to the present into the future. And my belief is that there are three pillars of this imagination. One is science, reason, and innovation. And from that perspective, there couldn't be a better person than you that I've crossed paths with. And even considering my own background, my mission is to humanize technologies and democratize design.
Thank you.
And we've crossed paths. And so that's why I'm going to like ask you a bunch of questions, see your perspective, so that we really bring the discourse back to a place where we can move forward rather than get caught up in divisive, regressive kind of a narrative. So that's my objective. I'm going to talk to other people who have respect for not people from politics, but people who have really shaped the imagination of India.
And I appreciate you're doing it. We need more of it. I think conversation today needs to be brought back on track, which is more rational, logical, respectful, and meaningful.
Absolutely. So my first question is, kind of when you look at the media, that mass media that people have access to, and the political discourse, it's kind of got clouded. The whole spirit of innovation, future thinking, progress has been hijacked, and I call it like pseudo nationalism and regressive thinking has taken over. And I see it affecting, though this virus, I see it affecting people's minds. So my question is, I don't want to reject India's ancient traditions, but in the context of science, reason, and innovation, what do you think? Like, what do you think of? How do you look at the past that we have inherited and its reference to the future?
See, everyone has their own past and their own perception of what that past means, whether it is Indians in India, Romans in Rome, Englishmen, Americans, Africans. Everyone has very rich history and heritage of their own, which we need to respect. It is not just Indian history that we need to respect. We need to respect history of the other people. History of different race, different religion, different continent, different languages. In light of that, we need to see history of India. And then we have to derive strength from it and not get stuck with it. Because ultimate idea is to look forward. Ultimate idea is to really build better future and not talk about so-called glorious past. Whatever happened, happened. I say that in different ways and people misunderstand it, saying you can't control what happened. You can control what will happen. So there is no sense in spending too much time on what happened and who did what and who was right, who was wrong. They did things based on their understanding at that point in time. You cannot analyze that in today's context. Decisions people made were in time and environment and ecosystem they had. It is not fair for me to make those judgments today based on my understanding, my ecosystem, because that decision don't make sense anymore in whatever way.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm not interested in analyzing history. I've learned from my history and heritage. I know what my forefathers stood for, what my mythical stories stood for. But don't drag me into controversies and discussions and understanding and who did what to whom. I want to use that to go forward.
I like that. I want to put a marker on 15th August 1947. And from there onwards, free India's progress towards future. So now we'll leave the past behind and think about the progress we have made. And I'm not talking about political narratives. I'm thinking more about the genius that India has bred through its institutions, through its people, its technologies. And from that perspective, knowing that my curiosity is more about the science, reason, and innovation, what would you say are the milestones in our progress that have guided our imagination for tinkering with materials and technologies and creating a future.
In 1947, when India got independence, we had very little to show for, because over 100 years of colonization had essentially robbed India not only of the self-confidence and respect, but also of the wealth that we had. A lot of our technologies were taken abroad. A lot of our minerals and mines and fundamentals were gone. And our economy, which was at one point in time 25% of the global economy, went back to 2%. So we had no resources, no talent, no infrastructure, no base, and no self-confidence. So I would say our founding fathers had great vision and very difficult task. Rightfully so, they decided to use science and technology as the foundation to build institutions and infrastructure India would need in the future. We can criticize about X or Y, but the bottom line is they were right on track, saying, unless and until we build human capacity, we cannot move forward. The human capacity in building water dams, roads, building education institutions, research institutions. So Nehrus of the world had this grand vision. There are people who criticize Nehru, but they have no understanding of what it takes to build a nation from scratch. So our founding father decided to focus on higher education. Of course, basic education was very important, but at the same time, we needed people to build a nation. So we started IITs, IIMs, build more universities, CSIR laboratory, atomic energy, Bangalore Institute of Science. And we really focused on large number of national institutions to build human capacity. Because our founding fathers were convinced that future belongs to science and technology. They were convinced that to address the problem of a nation like India, we need to look forward and we need people with scientific mindset, rational, logical thinking, vision of the future, rooted in Indian reality. What they started 70 years ago has now given India global respect and recognition. Indians are all over the world. When Pandit Nehru started IITs, he had no idea that graduates of IITs will go abroad and rule trillion-dollar companies. Then we were building human resource to build bridges and not satellites and electronics and software and AI. So the temples of the future, as Nehru used to call, very important to India's prosperity. When I look at India today, I see many, many accomplishments that really goes back to the 50s and 60s. Let's talk about 5 or 6 important areas, and not that these are the only areas. I'm just going to give you an example of 5 areas. One, atomic energy. No one thought that India, getting independence in 47, will become a global player in atomic energy. It was Nehru's vision and Bhabha's domain expertise that came together, where Nehru gave Bhabha free hand, support, motivation, political will to build atomic energy infrastructure for India. Look where we are today. We are a major power in that field. We have huge number of experts. We are recognized as a respectable thinkers in atomic energy. Next one was during Mrs. Indira Gandhi's time, people felt that India will not be able to feed herself. Many people used to say India is a basket case. But the emphasis on green revolution, led by Dr. Swaminathan, Dr. Rao, Dr. Randhawa, and many others, really created self-sufficiency in food. Today, India can not only feed 1.5 billion people, but today India can have surplus food. Unthinkable 50 years ago. Credit goes to our agricultural scientist. Credit goes to political will. Then space. I mean, people used to say, what a poor country who can't feed do in space. Today, we are a leading player in space technology. We send our own satellites. We have huge amount of talent in the field. And Vikram Sarabhai, Dr. Dhawan, U.R. Rao, and many others, and I can name 50 more, who gave their best to space technology, and Mrs. Indira Gandhi provided political will. So we are a champion today in space. Then came Korean idea of cooperatives. Got support from Tribhuvan Bhai Patel. And then all kinds of political leaders supported him. Congress, non-Congress, others. And we had a milk revolution. Today, India is the largest producer of milk. Then came Rajiv Gandhi, and I had an opportunity to work with him on IT, telecom, and other technologies. I always say that he gave meaning to my life. I was just an engineer. I could have built a big business, made lots of money, but he gave a special meaning to me, that you can help connect India. Then we had 2 million telephones. It used to take 10 years to get a telephone. No one ever thought that in 30 years, India would have 1.4 billion telephones. India would be a country of connected billions. That revolution started with Rajiv Gandhi's support. We built CDOT, CDAC, software industry, NASCOM. Today, not only we have 1.5 billion phones and we are a country of connected billion, but we also generate close to $200 billion worth of software export every year, year after year. Indians are recognized as global IT talent. all over the world. You go to any country, you will find Indian IT experts. You go to Silicon Valley, half of the startups are started by Indians. You go to Europe, you will find Indians all over. Even in Scandinavian countries, you'll find Indian software people. It has created 5-6 million jobs, high-paying jobs in India. These 5 are simple examples. I'll give you another example. During Rajiv Gandhi's time, we had technology missions. One of the missions was immunization. India did not make any vaccine in early 80s. We decided to work on polio vaccine in mid 80s. We had no knowledge of anything. We sent a team to Russia, team to France, and decided to blend vaccine in India. Today, we are the largest producer of vaccine in the world. These are all kinds of major accomplishments. We had close to 100 universities. Now we have over 1,000 universities. Look at the kind of things we have done. We should be proud of what we have done and not undermine what we have done. Of course, we could have done a lot more. But don't underestimate the contribution we have made in the last 70 years. We are where we are because our founding fathers had the vision to push scientific thinking, rational, logical thought, and they were not hung up on conversation rooted in religion. They were not hung up on clashes between communities. They were not hung up on religious rhetoric. They were not hung up on hate, lies, misinformation. Today, a lot of that goes on. And if you have faith in science, you think things differently. Science is all about finding truth. It is in search of truth that you take a journey in science. And when you find truth there in science, it affects entire humanity.
That's beautiful.
When I find truth in religion, it affects only me. But if somebody breaks DNA, it is for humanity to benefit from it. If somebody knows how to launch a satellite, everybody benefits. So the truth in science, to me, is so very important. And you look at the developments in last 70 years, whether it is invention of transistor, and I remind myself that transistor was invented after I was born. I was born in 1942. Transistor was invented in 1947. Look at the impact of that little invention on humanity. From communication to control, to weapons, to peace, to, images, you name it. Everything has changed because of transistor, integrated circuits, software, now smartphones, applications. How could you do all these things if there was no science, if there was no future? Unfortunately, everything that we use today was invented in last 50, 60 years. And every invention has only come from the US, from no other country. Japan hasn't invented anything. Europe hasn't invented anything. India hasn't invented anything. Pardon me for saying it. The fundamentals, whether it is laser, DNA, biotech, nanotech, material, all came from US. Some may be out of defense research. But the focus on science and technology here in a democratic framework was very important. Russia did something, but didn't invent anything fundamental. So I'm one of those who firmly believe that for innovations to flourish, you need flourishing democracy, freedom of thought, freedom of information, open communication, ability to debate, discuss, argue respectfully,
And challenge.
And not take it personally. And I worry about India when I see all of these things being affected today. I worry a lot about India.
In one of my design conferences in Pune, I had put forward an argument that for participatory design to flourish, you need participatory democracy.
Absolutely.
And just wanted to I interrupted you. I'm going to take the opportunity to tell you that this legacy that you just unfolded, I'm a beneficiary of that because I studied at National Institute of Design, which was also part of the vision that Nehru presented.
Absolutely.
He's the one who brought Charles Eames to India to create an India report through which created the idea, and then Vikram Sarabhai and Giraben were the ones who actually gave shape to that vision. So I'm absolutely a beneficiary of that.
But look at the impact of that little seed that we planted. I think we planted lots and lots of seeds. Today, those who are benefiting from those fruits don't realize how seeds were planted. They have no understanding.
So I have one question for you here. This just emerged from our conversation. One of the things I have noticed that people of high intellectual caliber who have contributed original ideas, and I would even start with Buddha, I find that many of them have crossed the borders of their home, traveled around the world in search of truth, imbibed other ideas that they did not grow up in, and then when they came back, their contribution was a lot more profound. And I find that post-independence, the leadership, and not just within the Congress party, in every party, was enlightened beings who have traveled around the world, be it Nehru or Gandhi or even Jayaprakash Narayan.
Or Vallabhbhai Patel or Subhash Chandra Bose.
All of them had traveled, they had seen ideas outside of their cocoon. And I kind of feel that we are being brought back to the cocoon instead of being encouraged to go out and explore the world and the possibilities. What do you think about that?
I agree with that. I think it is like frog in the well. They think this is the world we live in. You need to be able to go out and not only explore new frontiers, but also accept new frontiers. Almost everyone who participated in independence movement was an NRI, from Gandhi to Nehru to Patel to everybody, almost everybody. And unless and until you see the world, you don't become a global citizen. To me, humanity comes way ahead of any religion. Any religion. I'm a human being first. I don't have to be Indian. I don't have to be Hindu. I have to be a human being. I have to respect other human being. Then only I can flourish. I have to respect diversity. I have to be inclusive. I have to be democratic. I have to expect or accept their truth and my truth as well at the same time. People can't do that. Okay. And you understand a broader picture when you see a larger world. Because if there is an object, it depends on where you are looking at from. If you look at from within, it looks very different. If you look from top, sideways, bottom, from distance, I'll give you one example. I have a very close friend Um, we worked together at one time. Jim Lovell. Captain Lovell was the head of Apollo 13. And he took a picture of Earth rise from moon. And he gave me that picture. I have it in my house. And I remember him saying then, which was almost, 40, 50 years ago, saying, Sam, I could put my thumb and the entire Earth would vanish. So that's when I realized how insignificant we are. He said, I cannot describe that feeling being on Earth. I have to see Earth from that distance to be able to feel that. So I think it's very important for people to realize that international exposure is very important in life. Travel is very important in life. Multiple languages are very important in life. Open mind is the key to fresh air.
That's beautiful. So I have another question for you on that. I'm enjoying this conversation, by the way, Sam. So both you and I have lived outside of India for a long time. So like global stage is our karma bhumi, but our matrubhumi is still India. You've done a lot for India. So I wonder what needs to be done in India so that Indians who come to the US, go to other places, they flourish in their capacities, in their creativity, in the outputs they generate. How can we create the same opportunity for people within India? It's the same people who come with the same basic education. They inherit the same legacy. What's keeping people there from having the kind of open space that people who have succeeded here have?
I think it's a very complex question. But we can begin this conversation by saying environment, ecosystem, rules of the game. We really need new work environment, new work ethics, new work norms, new work habits. Our conversation today is not about collaboration, cooperation, and co-creation. Our conversation today is about command and control, centralized system. We need to completely decentralize. Today, everybody is waiting for Prime Minister to say something. Prime Minister has all the wisdom, which is not true. He does not have wisdom. Okay, he needs to learn to listen more. We all need to learn to listen more, not just him. And people find that the answers can only come from top and not from bottom. So we have an approach which is very hierarchical, top down. In business, we are top down. In politics, we are top down. In family, we are top down. In schools, we are top down. We need bottom-up approach. And when people go abroad, they are successful because they see bottom-up approach. They find space for them to flourish.
I have a question on that. Yesterday, I was watching a number of YouTube videos of Narendra Modi visiting various technology companies, Meta, Google, and so on. And I'm almost shocked at the response he gets from the audience to his rabble rousing. So here is a group of people who have experienced the benefit of an open ecosystem. What is your message to them? How can they preserve that rather than getting trapped in this new rhetoric?
No, I think everybody looks at world from their own perspective. Those who don't speak are really looking at self-interest and not public interest. If they were looking at public interest, they would speak up. But if you look at your self-interest, you think it is okay to suck up because you'll gain something out from sucking up. So the same people who enjoy freedom in America don't mind freedom being curbed in India. What do you say? Because these are the people who believe in building temples in America. These are the people who are more religious minded than they were in India.
But at the same time, they're writing code for artificial intelligence.
That's the contradiction they have no problem living with. Okay. They live with contradictions. They accept these contradictions in life. They think it is okay to be hypocrite. Okay. They think it is perfectly normal. Okay. To say that I enjoy freedom in America, but I support curbing freedom in India. Okay. That's hypocrisy, but that's okay. I can't change them. Okay. I have no criticism. I can't change them. I have to love them. That's all. Okay. I feel sorry for them, but I have no control. Okay. So I don't argue with anybody here. I have my own views on what is going on in India. I want India to be more democratic. I want India to be a country where there is freedom of speech, media that is more open and balanced. I want India where there are no personal attacks on people, where you don't send, EDs to everybody and create fear. I don't like what is going on in India. You can do the same thing you are doing today in a better environment. You don't have to do what you are doing today to really get what you want.
So I have another question, rather I'm seeking advice from you. When you were the deputy chairman of Planning Commission,
No, I was not a deputy chairman of Planning Commission. I was advisor to the Prime Minister.
Okay, I thought you were, but you were sitting in the chair.
I was sitting there next to the office of Monte Ahluwalia.
Okay,
Yes.
I get it. Sorry. But when you were in the Planning Commission, we as a group of design educators and practicing designers came to you seeking your advice and your support in expanding design education in India. Since then, hundreds of new design schools have come up here.
Yes.
And one of the things I have done is while doing my professional practice, I have been teaching in different schools here in Europe and in India. My question to you is, despite whatever happens in politics, and we need to fight that fight at one level, people like us who are more committed to innovation, design, scientific thinking, rational thinking, what message should we give to the students that we interact with?
I think design is a very important part of life. Very few people understand the role of design. Design is not about product design. Design is about organizational design, process design, designing communities, designing solutions. So I think design is a broader concept. And more you talk about it, more you discuss in public, better our communities is, because then they understand the role of design in their day-to-day life. While you and I met in Planning Commission, like you said, our idea collectively was to really expand design education. And to some extent, we have done it. But we need more of it. We need design in government, which we don't have today. Okay. So what you all are doing in terms of educating people about design is something you need to do more of it. Use social media, use, YouTube and other means available to teach design to rural communities. There is a lot of potential in rural community in design. Look at art and craft. Look at unorganized, so-called unorganized sector in India. which is huge with great potential in design. Design is not about just Western fashion shows that we see.
In fact, I just want to say something, if I may interrupt you. When you talked about 5 significant, I would say, idea revolutions that happened in India, I would add one more. 2 women, Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay and Pupul Jaikar, brought about a revolution in the crafts and handicraft sector of India. And we cannot discount that, because that is an integral part of India's labor.
Absolutely. When I worked with Dr. Manmohan Singh, I was assigned a house, 11 Sabdarjung Road. And that's the house where Pupul Jaikar lived. So I moved in her house. And I had a very special feeling because I knew her well. And I felt that I'm touching the roots of design culture in India. I firmly believe that the talent of our artisan, of our tribal, of our artists in rural India need to be organized so that their income potential increase. Unfortunately, all the modern design is geared towards Western fashion. Unfortunately. Maybe not all, but most of it. I think this whole area of traditional art and craft in India is a gold mine. Not just for India, but for the world to explore.
And not only because the output it produces, but also because the labor it engages and the social harmony it creates.
Agree.
Because we don't want to even technology to displace people. We want technology to engage people, to engage their imagination, give them a feeling that their capacities can be harnessed to create something that's useful for the world, that create value in the world.
Agree.
Thank you so much, Sam. It's been wonderful talking to you. I know you're working both at technology and political level. I wish you success. And I really, really hope that in the coming year, we are able to rekindle a new way of thinking amongst our youth, that, science and reason and innovation are the foundation of progress. And for that, we need a democratic way of living.
Thank you. I think we have a lot to talk. We have just touched the surface. We could talk for a few more hours on some of these areas. And I look forward to remaining in touch with you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate what you are doing and keep doing what you are doing.